to everyone who's here this morning with the Zoom. And for those of you who are catching up on YouTube later, then good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is the third and last, for the moment, teaching on diligence, the Paramita of Diligence. And so, as always, we try and adjust our mind and make a really, really excellent motivation that will keep us going through the next hour, hour and a half together. And we try to fill our hearts with love, with loving care for all our fellow beings. The reason we want to be diligent in the Paramita is, of course, because we're on this bodhisattva path of service, loving care for all beings. And so we try to love everyone to the maximum, with nobody excluded. And also to love Dharma. Love of Dharma is really at the heart of this topic of diligence. If you have enough love of Dharma, then you won't be able to stop yourself being diligent. And so then it all goes together, because Dharma isn't some abstract philosophy, although some people might make it that, of course. You can't stop humans doing what humans do. But I saw something the other day. It was somebody had asked their rabbi, what is God? And he said, God is reality all around us. Well, I can't comment, but that's another religion. But we love Dharma because it's the truth about people, about what happens in minds of people. And Dharma is about how to understand, how to help, how to make things better when they're not so good. So love of Dharma, love of sentient beings, it's the same thing in the end. So we try and have a wonderful, open, beautiful mind to start with. We do our prayers. We take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and in the community of most noble minds. From this moment on until we reach the very heart of enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and all 6 transcendent virtues, may we reach total awakening and every enlightened quality to be able to truly help sentient beings so lost in samsara. May each and every being be well, live long, be healthy, be well provided for, have good friends, find respect, live in places of peace and plenty, and most of all, may they practice Dharma. May they each create the causes for these things to be their wealth in future lives. May they be free from suffering and from creating the causes of future suffering. May they discover the natural, sacred well-being that's totally beyond suffering. May they attain the great equanimity, free of closeness or distance from anyone. Dhyata shame shamavati shameta shatru Om kurimara jite karota
Keore tejo wati oloyani pishudani male malapanaye. Kukure kaka grase grasana. Omuki paramuki amuki shamdawani. Sawa graha bandhanani gritva. Sawa bhava pravadina vimukta marapasha savitva buddhamudra. Anutgatita savamare butsarita parishuddhe Vigashantu savamara kama. Glorious Guru, source of all blessing, ever present above our heads on lotus and moon seat, through your immense kindness, ever sustain us, that the accomplishments of body, speech, and mind flow from you, and we are one. So we are on the third of our talks and on diligence. And we had a break last week because it was our monthly Saturday Tonglen. So far, without going back over all we did in those other two sessions, the key point about diligence is not busyness. It is about effort, as long as it's the right effort. But the key point is effectiveness. It's that our Dharma practice is effective. Efficient, although that sounds more like a kind of business term, but efficient is what it means. Efficient, effect, they're the same kind of word. Effectiveness in Dharma. What is Dharma? Another one main word we always associate with Dharma is it's a path. Dharma is the path. The path is. What's it made of? It's not made of cobblestones or concrete or tarmac. The path is made of Dharma steps. So Dharma means change. The path of change, path of transformation from a life of suffering, a life of confusion, a life of limitation, to a mind which is totally free, perfectly wise, and naturally loving and compassionate, and totally at peace. We have a little way to go. We are not yet quite, I think, totally at peace. We're not quite filled up with love yet, although sometimes there's a lot. And wisdom is a very, very funny thing. Knowledge is easy. Wisdom's weird. It's deep. It's funny. So we have a long way to go. We are wanting to change. Our Dharma path is a path of change. So diligence means making it effective. It doesn't necessarily mean being busy. That's the point I'm making several times. And we'll come to that today in the section on humility. But anyway, the main thing, diligence is about being effective. And then the being effective, as I said in the introduction, is about being joyful, enjoying Dharma. Dharma is our joy, our delight. So sometimes in some of the texts, it describes Dharma more as a duty. It's that too, especially Akon Rinpoche talked a lot about duty. Once we've taken our bodhisattva promise, we have a duty to other beings to care for them, look after them. But
the secret is enjoying Dharma, having a deep happiness because we understand the benefits. So we've looked at that already. And then in the last session, we looked at a very, very important point, and a point that's not just to be understood, but that is at the core of our work of becoming Dharma effective, Dharma joyful. And that is this armor-like diligence. Remember last time we looked at the armor, the example of armor when you go into a battle and so on. And it's an attitude. That attitude is, no matter what, from now on, I'm a bodhisattva. I will do what bodhisattvas do. And we saw, it's like the words of those beautiful lines in our bodhisattva promise, bodhisattva vow. Just as the Buddhas of the past first set their hearts on enlightenment, set their hearts on it, and then practice this path stage by stage. So I too will do that. And then we say, today I've become a child of the Buddhas. I'm born into the family of the Buddhas. This is my true heritage. From now on, I'll do whatever it takes, and I will do nothing to spoil, to dirty, to sully this noble line of Buddhas, bodhisattvas. So that attitude is what makes us take our bodhisattva commitment, but it just gets more and more. So that's why next week we're going to look at 22 similes to see how the more and more and more work. 22 steps of bodhicitta, 22 similes of how it gets deeper and brighter and more powerful, richer in qualities. So at the beginning, where I am now, and I don't know, you might all be Buddhas come here to test Ken's knowledge, you see, so I can't say where we're at now. I can only say where I'm at now. And so where I'm at is a beginner. And so the work, the armor-like diligence, is to really put in place, without any doubt, this long-term vision of all these lives we've had before. Remember them or not doesn't matter. We trust the Buddha's teachings, our Guru's teachings, that we had hundreds, thousands before. We look at the logic of karma. We look at the complexity of our minds. We look at the complexity of our life. You think about cause and effect. There must be such a long story behind you, behind me. Such a long story, such a complicated story that ends up with this life. So anyway, we really believe that. We have that vision of this life. It's like for us now, a day. We know there's tomorrow, we know there was yesterday. I've done however many, 100, 110, 120 Zoom teachings. This is our 120th, maybe, Saturday together. I hope there'll be one next week. I hope we'll all be around. It's just a moment in between many, many other moments. And we know there'll be a next life and a life after that and a life after that. And we know where we're going. No doubt about it. Not maybe, with a bit of luck or, for sure, we are on the path to freedom, to what is good, what is so naturally good, and what is free of making more causes of suffering for ourselves and for others. Definitely that is where we're going. We're going to learn all the skills that we'll need, that will equip us to help others go the same beautiful way. So that vision, that armor-like diligence, is the big view. So then, all the mess that turns up in this life, illness, problems, people problems, life problems, planet Earth problems, war problems, all of it, we see in that one perspective of how all of it can help us be a better bodhisattva, and how we can help, learn to help other people. It's a big work, even if you can understand it in there the first time you read the teachings about precious human existence and bodhicitta. The reality is working with all of our conditioning, as we've seen in these last two talks. Where we grew up, how we grew up, is all based on a only this life world. It's kind of been drilled into us. It's in us like, I don't know what, I'm thinking of all the things that penetrate, ink into blotting paper, oil stains into your new cotton shirt, or whatever it is. We've been impregnated with a view that ends on your deathbed. And it doesn't. Your deathbed is like your nighttime bed. You go to bed, you wake up the next morning. You go to bed again the next night. You wake up again the next morning. It's a new day. It's a new life. It's just like that. So the armor-like diligence is a huge work. It's at the heart of diligence teachings. It's the most important thing, really, in all of this. If you've got that, you've got all the rest. So, the long view. And then we saw that diligence has three aspects in the master plan. Somewhere along the line, I sent you a master plan. I've written on mine, so it's not neat, but I sent you one of these, of this diligence chapter. So we saw that diligence has three aspects. There's, so that's called, there's the applied diligence, and diligence as continuity, and diligence as enthusiasm. So applied diligence, and so that's why we needed the chart, in itself has three aspects. We apply diligence to our three areas. This was last time we did this, last week. Last session. Three areas, the three areas of our right conduct. Also to remind you that diligence is not like the other 5 paramita, because you can't actually do it. You cannot just be diligent. You can only do something diligently. You can be diligently generous. You can practice your right conduct of vows and so on diligently, but you can't just sit down and be diligent. So it's different from the rest. It's a quality of how we meditate, become wise, practice generosity, practice right conduct, practice forbearance. It's different. So when we apply it, then we're applying it to our 3 areas of conduct, which you might remember from that paramita. One area is dealing with our own mind poisons, afflictions, whatever you call them, klesha in Sanskrit, getting rid of the poison from ourselves. A second area is developing all the good qualities in ourselves, developing virtue. And the third area is specifically about helping others. So we explored those in right conduct, Now, we're not so much looking at those in terms of what you do, but how do you do them diligently? And in the last session, we ended up on the first one, dealing with our own mind poisons diligently. And you remember we had this example, you are like the lion among foxes. So when the fox of your jealousy comes along, sneaky, creepy little fox, slinking along the ground, then you are like a lion, and the fox slinks away with its tail between its legs. You don't give space for jealousy. When your anger is coming up, the little fox of anger, little fox, but with a big imagination, I'm going to get that lion. And then the lion looks up, mindfulness, awareness, the lion looks up, he sees the fox of, what was it, anger, that one, and just, fox of anger goes away. And then lust comes up, and that's a lustful, a very pretty fox, that one. Big bushy tail, all of the autumn coat before they get a bit moth-eaten and ragged. So a very pretty fox of lust comes up, and the same thing. Because our lion has the armor-like diligence. Our lion knows who he is, where he's going, where she is, where she's going. So that stuff's just rubbish. So we saw that last time. And then, but that's a nice image. Okay, we can play around with that. But when the reality comes and you are getting upset and angry and pissed off with him, pissed off with that, and so on, it's not quite so easy. You can't just go at the beginning. So we need help. Our help comes through mindfulness, awareness. There's so much of the Bodhisattva teachings at all times. Inspect your mind. You've probably seen that. Be mindful, inspect your mind. But diligence, how do we do it? We do it enough. We want to be, remember, efficient, effective. So it's good to check oneself enough. Too much, you just become a bag of nerves all the time. Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? Did I do that wrong? Shouldn't I have thought that? Did I say that? You're like a dog or a cat. I forget which ones do it, but they chase their own tail round and round like this, and you can go faster and faster. In the end, you can't stop checking your mind. And did you check it right? And were you aware of this? And were you aware of it? And it's too much. It's not efficient. It's not helping you practice Dharma. So we need to find what enough is. Either by ourselves or sometimes with the help of our teacher. One very good thing, one practice that's so often recommended is first thing in the day, last thing at night. First thing in the day, when we wake up, then we set our mind to a bodhicitta day. Today, I'm going to live body, speech, and mind as a bodhisattva. And we really long for that, want it to happen. The last thing at night, once you're in bed and the day's over, and before you get into the sort of losing the consciousness, as sleep starts coming on, while we're still bright, we look back on the day. And I think, Ken, how did you do? So we have a quick action replay of the day, and especially times when what we're talking about here, klesha, come up when we did get whatever it was, angry, lustful, jealous, stupid, when we just wasted hours not doing something very helpful in any way. So we look back, we learn from what didn't work, where we didn't live up to our bodhisattva aspiration, quite matter of fact, and sort of, right. We analyze a little bit. How did that happen? We try and find the sequence of why we felt jealous or whatever it was, so that next time we can catch it earlier. So like that, we do a review. That's a very, very good practice, very calm, matter of fact. Start the day with beautiful aspiration, finish the day with analysis, and be particularly mindful and aware when similar circumstances that got us before come up afresh tomorrow or whenever it might be. So then we ended with this analogy of, well, how vigilant should we be? Enough. We had the analogy of the ball of hot oil on the head and the sharp sword to the throat. So if you are really 100% full on 24/7 practicing bodhisattva, then that's it. But like I said, practically we need enough self-awareness, self-checking to help us. So today we move on. That was a review up to now of where we got so far. So that was diligence in getting rid of our klesha, our afflictions. So then now we get to the positive side, diligence in developing the positive qualities in ourselves. And that has 5 aspects. Diligence, and these are all wonderful teachings, but they're very straightforward. So I'll go through them, but I don't need to unpack them for you. They're pretty straightforward. So the first of the 5, we're in 5 points now, is diligence as continuity. I'll just read you what it says in your support document. This is about sticking with an undertaking and not having an on-off, enthusiastic, unenthusiastic effort on account of our mind being fickle, bored, or distracted. It means constancy. So in the quote from a sutra called the Cloud of Jewels, it says, since bodhisattvas apply diligence to every aspect of their daily lives, nothing can cause them regret about what their body does or their mind does. So it says the regret is that later we regret having wasted the time. So at the end of the day, or the end of your life, on your deathbed, you look back, oh my goodness, so much wasted time, so much wasted time. I've talked about efficiency as being the key idea of diligence. And we saw in the very first talk that the opposite of efficiency is wasting your precious time. So here, looking at the positive qualities that we're developing, then we want to, in this one, be continuous, to be constant. So I carry on reading what I wrote. continuity, because diligence means being efficient, doesn't necessarily mean sticking with one thing, being continuously doing whatever it is that's a good work, that's virtue. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I give you a very practical example of myself and Katya here. Most of you know who Katya is, my wife, my Dharma companion. And so she longs to have uninterrupted time to do whatever she's working on. For her, that's the dream. You just do it and do it and do it and do it till it's done. That would drive me mad. I need to do what's called alternation. I need to work well, fast, efficiently on one thing, then switch and do something else, another good thing. And then I get bored with that and I come back to the first thing, or maybe a third thing. But that's how I function the most efficiently. And if I have to do something continuously in that sense, then I get more and more exhausted, tired, and then it's any excuse, cup of tea, cup of coffee, 5 steps in the garden, anything. So it depends on you, on your mentality. So it's about being efficient. It's about being efficient always. And alternation is a topic I love. I co-wrote a book on this sometime in the 1990s with a wonderful French person, Dr. Pezet. And it was mainly his book I contributed. But so it means if you work on a computer, electronic stuff, screens, square eyes, and so on, you have that to do. You also have work to do in the garden. So there you learn to stop before your eyes are completely square and you're sort of screen poisoned and zonked by the computer. Long before that, you stop, you go and do a bit of work in the garden, you're refreshed, your mind has switched, you've alternated, and then you know when to stop there, and you can go back refreshed to your computer. That way, we can have this lively mind, and we can love what we're doing. So continuity means that you are, even if you're alternating between different things, in the end, you're getting each of the jobs done very well. Your garden's looking better. You've written the thing that you needed to write on the computer. It all got done in best time and with the best quality mind and heart behind it. So, but the continuity, so let's dig deeper into that. And this is something that my teacher drummed into me. It's about commitment. And you commit to what you are pretty sure you can complete. And you don't make promises and promises and promises if you're not sure. You don't have too many pots on the boil, too many projects, so that in the end, some of them suffer and you're stressed and you feel you're letting people down, you're letting yourself down because you wanted to do all those things, but actually in terms of your own resources, you can't. So Rinpoche used to tell me, if you're not 100% sure you can do it, just now, of course, always things can happen, but just now, if you've got the resources, it looks like you're going to have the time. He says, unless that's the case, don't promise. Don't even start it. Reduce what you're doing to what you can do well and what you can complete. I suppose, again, this varies with people, but for me, that was a huge training. And I must say, and I better not mention people and places, although it's quite a few people and places, in the last 15 years, I've met a younger generation of people in my travel, a lot of them in business. And they're promising everything to everyone. You get a phone call, I've been with them in their offices. Somebody's chasing them up because they're a bit late on the job. Yeah, oh yeah, sure, no, we're going to get that done. It's the next thing on the list. And yeah, I'll get back to you tomorrow. No trouble at all. No, the thing's well underhand. And they put the phone down and say, and you know that they've been so bright and assuring and promising on the phone. It's kind of a nice buzz of, how can you say, commercial positivity. Everyone sounds so good on the phone to each other, but then what they're doing or what they're not doing is like the builders who are always, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. And then they don't turn up and they don't turn up. And the part's coming soon. Oh, we're on the case. I'll get back to you. So yeah, I think you see what I mean. For me, it was a huge training, and listening to other people, I can see that it's a nice mind. You want to do a lot, you'd love to do a lot. But now, because diligence is about being able to really deliver to ourselves and to other people, well, then we make it an honesty with ourselves and with other people. And we only undertake what we feel we can do, and then we are committed to doing it, and we do it as efficiently as we can. This is the continuity. The opposite of continuity is what is rupture, broken. Things never get completed, or they take much longer than you thought. I think that's it for this section. So continuity is one of our 5 aspects in our positive work, Dharma work. And then second one, diligence as enthusiasm. Enthusiasm, before with the continuity, we're looking at what we're actually doing and promising to do, the doing. Now we're looking at the mind behind the doing. Doing what? Doing the good Dharma things, training in virtue. So we are happy about it. We are enthusiastic. So it says, it means acting joyfully, looking for smiles, yes. Joyfully, appreciatively, and without delay. So we have an example. We've got a nice zoo in this section. We had the lions and the foxes the other day. Now we've got elephants. So this comes from the teachings in India, lots of elephants at the time. The elephants were the tractors and the diggers of the day, the big, powerful machinery. And so it says, since this task has got to be completed, come back to that, plunge into it like an elephant scorched by the midday sun, plunging into a pool. So they must have seen this lots of times. An elephant, it's worked hard, it's out there in that burning sun. And then the joy of going into the water and getting its trunk and washing itself and feeling the cool mud, water, whatever it is. And they have a really good time when they do that. It's kind of, how can you say, total immersion. Immersion's the word. The first lines of the quote say, since this has got to be completed. We're back with the previous point. You're committed. You're going to do it. You've made a promise. It might not be easy. It might not be easy. But you're going to be doing it anyway. So might as well enjoy it. And of course, it's mind training. So we examine. This is a good thing. It needs to be done. It needs to be done. It's part of my Dharma work. Why do I feel like brakes on a car? Why do I feel reluctant? What's the ego bit in there that's threatened? What's the mind poison that wants to hold me back? It's part of the path. So might as well enjoy it. Okay, with whatever you've got to do, you're practicing generosity, you've got to cook 100 dinners for the soup kitchen, or whatever it is. So there we can imagine you're going to do it anyway. Then you chop the carrots happily and joyfully and think Dharma carrots, Dharma journey. But your Dharma journey is also your mind. Loss, bereavement, separation, loss of income, loss of wealth, loss of health, loss of many things. Working with that in a Dharma way is also our Dharma path. It's happening, like it or not. So we might as well be joyful. It sounds almost masochistic. And there's an element to this. Sometimes Dharma hurts. Being true to yourself, being true to the Buddha's teaching, it hurts, but it's beautiful pain. It's beautiful pain. It's like sometimes, with my cancer treatment, I've been on various diets these last few years, and sometimes some foods are banned. The diets are varied. So what was absolutely banned on one diet, then you're eating a lot of it on the next one. But anyway, that's another story. But when it's banned, you kind of look at it. You see other people eating it. And it hurts. But then you know you're doing yourself some good, or you think you are. So there's a kind of niceness to the hurt. As they're stuffing in the chocolate bars and you're nibbling whatever you're nibbling instead. Or you're not nibbling anything and you're feeling the hunger in your belly, then it's kind of a beautiful pain. Because, or even cancer treatment apart, if you want to lose weight or something, when you get on the scale next time, it could be just a half a gram less. You can go, whoopee, it's going down, not going up, whatever it is. That kind of enjoyment we're talking about in this second point, enthusiasm, enjoyment. Now, on a real level, why are we so joyful? It's because we have the armor-like diligence. You can see yourself in the next life and the life after. And you're like the people we admire now, some of our great teachers, helping so many other people. You're going to be like that. I'm going to be like that, for sure. This is our armor-like diligence. That's where we're going. So what we have to do, what we are committed to do, and now we've pared it down to the essential. We're not promising to do lots of things that we don't need, can't do. Now we're going to do that so joyfully because we know where it's going, where it's taking us. So that's a few words on enthusiasm. And I've talked about this in your support document. I've given a few examples, and I've talked about this, I think, in the last talk about the migrant workers here who are supporting whole families in other countries. And so, although they're working so hard, they live in such poor conditions, their heart's full of joy because they can know the benefit. It's a long-term view. Or if somebody's, you get people who build their own homes over quite a few years. They save up, they buy the plot of land. Whenever they can, they go there, they build a bit. And so they have this vision of how it's going to be at the end. Now the next one, 3 of 5, is diligence as being unshakable. So if we're looking at the quality of being unshakable, we need to understand what shake is in the beginning. And so it says unshakable, not being detracted from your task, whatever it is, by impediments, things that get in the way, obstacles, due to thoughts, due to our mind's afflictions, emotions, or due to suffering that we are going through. Perfection in this takes a long time. Things bring us down, put us off, take away our energy, take away our enthusiasm, our joy. We can't just change overnight. It's a work. Diligence, like all the paramitas, is a training. We do what we can, we make it better and better and better. So let's look first at thoughts. How can our thoughts become an obstacle to our Dharma once we've taken our Bodhisattva vow? Well, the main point here is doubt. And we need to understand about doubt. So, need a number. Not had many numbers so far. There are 2 types of doubt. Okay, useful doubt and harmful doubt. Helpful doubt, harmful doubt. Useful doubt, helpful doubt, we need. Almost everybody. Can't say for everybody, but almost everybody. It's part of our wisdom development. In other places, we learn about the 3 stages of wisdom development: prajna, prajna through study, prajna through reflection, prajna through meditation, or becoming totally used to, rather than meditation, whichever word. But anyway, the second level, once we've studied and got the facts and got the information, and the information's clear, the structure's clear, then we need to deep think about it, sit with it, turn it over in our mind until it starts to go deeper into us and change us. Understanding the Buddhist teachings, ideas, is a necessary first step. But if we don't take it to the second step of reflection, it's pretty useless. You've just gained even more knowledge. So we learn about impermanence. You can do structured meditation on impermanence, dozens of topics to reflect on. You've got the knowledge, but has your attitude to people and things changed? Have you realized how much everyone is changing all the time and how much we don't like it when some things change, and so on and so on, until we've thought about it and taken it into us, made it part of us through what? Thinking, thoughts. We think about it deeply and again and from different angles. Then the Dharma doesn't really work And the third step we call meditation, is actually when you've integrated Dharma so much, you couldn't think any other way. So that's good thinking, good doubts, because once we've received the teaching, then we need to question it as we apply it. Buddha said this. Do you believe it? Does it sound absolutely 100% like the truth to you? Does it sound exaggerated? Does the first bit sound okay, but not the second bit of that teaching? So there, we're not just allowed to doubt, we're encouraged to doubt. Because if we don't sort out our doubts now, they can come back as huge obstacles later on in our path that will be like a time bomb. So we examine. It's like in some teachings, you'll see simple phrases. All samsaric existence is suffering. Very easy example. Is it? Or is that Buddhist brainwashing? When we go through our day, was that suffering? Oh, it was nice. Who suffered there? I didn't suffer, nobody else suffered. Everything was very nice. It was very nice. I put my feet up, I enjoyed it, and so was Buddha. So we need to think. Doubt. Go back. And what do you do with doubts if you can't resolve them yourself through scriptures, through teachings, online teachings, whatever we have these days? You need to go to your teacher and say, sorry, look, everything's suffering. Everything? Come on, I can't. I want to believe it because Buddha said it. So then your teacher will tell you, yeah, this is a statement made by those and for those who've reached a stage of transcendence where you've recognized your Buddha mind, or you've discovered for the Arhat's path total peace. Compared to that, the joys of this world, which come with their price, and the big price tag, we saw that last time. You need birth, aging, sickness, and death to get a human body with eyes and ears that can see things and smell the nice smells and eat the nice food. You need one of these. To get one of these, you need to be reborn and be a baby and grow up, and at the end it all goes wrong and you die. That's the big price. And so for those who found total peace of mind, the bliss of serenity, the natural bliss of the mind, then running around out there looking for a quick shot of a different type of happiness, it's a waste of time, and it comes at a cost. So at that level, that teaching makes sense. Okay, you've got the explanation. Now your doubt's gone. But why did it go? It's because you thought about it, you tested it, you applied it to yourself, you applied it to life around you. That's what we need to do. And that kind of doubt is encouraged because it brings up the question to which we can find an adequate, satisfying answer. So far, so good. So that's helpful doubt. So then what is harmful doubt? It's when you've already got the answer through that process, but you are not constant. So it's like we've made progress, we've gone up a bit, but then we slide back, and we're in a mindset that we were in last year, maybe 5 years, 10 years ago, or maybe even when we first came to Dharma. We go back, and then that kind of doubt where we know the answer, we've heard the answer, and the higher, clearer, more intelligent, more inspired part of us knows that's the answer, but then the delinquent, historic, conditioned, ego-centered part of ourself comes up. It's like corpses coming out the grave. If we use a vivid example, your zombie came back. You thought you buried that one, and now it comes up out the grave, and it's coming for you, and you wonder, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Buddhist, what am I doing? Visualizing this, what am I doing? Whatever. I think you've got the point. So there's good doubt and unhelpful doubt. So I think I've got all my pages messed up. Maybe I didn't even print them. But anyway, then it goes on to quote the Mahamudra prayer, who said that it's through resolving doubt with the teachings of our Guru that we make progress on the path. And then next we've got the fourth of our fifth, applied diligence, and that is, we saw being unshakable, so now it's being undeterred. Just a second. See, that one, the being unshaken, is about you getting in the way of your progress. Our habits of anger, feelings, thoughts, mind poisons, the way we think and get into a state of doubt, putting everything back into question again, can put us off what's happening from within us. Now this being undeterred is what's happening around us and in other people. This one's important today. I come across this a lot. People who are put off, I think is the word, put off Dharma by what they meet in the Dharma world. The people who go to Dharma centers and they get really put off. Dharma centers can have so much ego going on in them. People who run the center, they run it their way. They're in conflict with each other anyway. You get an in crowd in the center who are sort of, they all know each other. There's something kind of similar about them. And then people go there, they feel rejected. They feel, this isn't my place. And, or you read such and such a Rinpoche who had such a beautiful CV, and they did this and they did that, and they seemed to be Vajradhara incarnate and so on. But there's just been violent there, sexual misconduct there. They bought themselves half a dozen Rolls Royces there. And so what's all that about? They get put off by the Dharma world, Dharma people. So you need wisdom for that. You need to realize people are people. And when people get into institutions, then people do what they do in all institutions, whether it's town councils, businesses, they're people. They're people. So that happens in Dharma. Taisitupa calls monasteries. He says they're white samsara. It's great. People already renounce the world. They're there, but then inside the monastery, the cook's angry and the chant master's jealous, and this is going on. That's going on. It's Samsara, a bit lighter version, but nevertheless is people. And then you can be put off not by Dharma people and Dharma centers, but just you could think, what's the point? What's the point? The world's all going down the tube so fast. And or then in your bodhisattva activity, you've tried to help somebody. They're ungrateful. Even they turn against you, like happens in psychotherapy. Sometimes people love the therapist at first because they've made so much progress, discovered something about themselves. But then because with the therapist, they dug into the darker side of themselves, sometimes they want to forget all of that, and they can project such things onto a therapist, a Dharma teacher. This happens. So people can be ungrateful. Well, then, just by the way humans are, what you're trying to do doesn't work. Maybe we're not always so bright. And what we try and do to help other people wasn't the best thing, wasn't the wisest thing. We thought it was helpful. We thought it was a good idea. We thought they needed this, or they needed to understand that about themselves. Sometimes we cause a lot of damage that way. So, okay, we live and learn. Sometimes, like a kid learning to walk, baby learning to walk. You have to fall over to learn to walk, of course, as long as you do learn to walk. So, lots of things can deter us out there in other people in our bodhisattva journey of teaching, of trying to help, be generous, help set up Dharma centers, and so on, and so on. So the fourth point of diligence, being effective, is not to let that be a weapon that pierces your armor of your armor like diligence. You have to pick yourself up, realize you've got more to learn, realize that people are people in all their beautiful variety, and that we're here to learn about them. And the more you learn about them, the more we can help them for the best. And then the last of these 5 points is humble diligence. This one is so important. Let's take some basic human behavior, which maybe you've seen in your workplace, in your couple, in your family, is that when somebody does something, they make a lot of noise about the fact that they've done something. Obvious noise. I'm the person who does everything around here, or that's 4 times this week I put the dustbins out and only twice you did. And there's a kind of an energy, a kind of assertiveness of ego. Let's put it as simple as that. I do stuff, or I do it well, and give that to me, you're not doing it right. Let me show you how to do that. All this kind of thing of doing. You're the one who does, you're the one who does a lot. You're the one who does things the best and efficiently. You're the one who knows. So look, let's say all of this is working on your bodhisattva path. You know a lot of Dharma, you're applying the Dharma a lot, you're very skillful. But if all of that is feeding your ego, the whole point's lost. The gauge is called, Atisha calls it the gauge of accomplishment for all of our bodhisattva journey is simple. Ego going down, compassion going up, good. Compassion going down, ego going up, bad. Simple as that. Simple as that. So humble diligence means that if you are doing a lot or doing things well, and wherever it is, in your Dharma community, just in your own mind, then we are humble. And this is one point of the Buddha nature teachings. Whoever you are, whichever of the levels you're on, unless you're Buddha, we're all in a mess. Buddha mind is naturally perfect. It's not a perfect ego. It just always was. Beautiful, perfect peace, wisdom, all those qualities. We're all on the way there. We all have a lot to do, a lot to do. There's a sameness to be humble. So real humility, not ego humility. And I always tell the same story because it strikes me, but in empowerments at Samiling, there is at certain stages of the empowerment, you have a queue usually of people going up to the Lama to be touched on the head with a empowering vase or to be given something. So there's a queue. There's a queue. Some people want to be the first in the queue. So they're very good at positioning themselves in the temple and being one of the first. But there are some people who are very good at being the last, and they're the cunning ones. You see them sitting down, they watch the queue, and now, it's not curling round the shrine room, now it's only 20 people, so you're waiting till it's 10, and then you get up from your seat. And you're the last one, because I'm the one who wants to be last. I'm going to be the last bodhisattva to get enlightened so I can help all the people who are left. And I'm humble. And then horror. Somebody pops out who's been hiding behind a pillar, and they're the last one. Because you already looked around and saw that there's no one left to get up from their seat. This actually happens. People in competition to be last, in competition to be the most humble. It's crazy. So there's humility and there is humility. The real humility is simply knowing, I'm not Buddha yet. I have a long way to go. We've all of us got a long way to go. We're all the same. We're all the same, like that. So humble diligence. So that's our 5 aspects of diligence in terms of doing the positive things, cultivating virtue. The third area, remember, dealing with our negativity, accomplishing virtue, and now working for the welfare of others. In the right conduct teachings, we had a list of 13 ways in which we can work for the welfare of others. So that means being diligent in the ways we've seen now, having the attitude, the joy, the efficiency, and so on in all of those. So there is armor-like diligence, applied diligence. We just had the 5 aspects of applied diligence, and now diligence as insatiability. Now, what to say here? An insatiable Buddhist sounds weird, doesn't it? So there is satisfaction, right satisfaction, wrong satisfaction. The most famous text says, if people in samsara can't get enough of it when it involves so much suffering, then we as Buddhists, as bodhisattvas, doing what we're doing where there's so much benefit, how much more so should we have this quality of more. So insatiability, let's look at its opposite. You're a satisfied Buddhist. Sounds good. It's good. We should be satisfied. Many times the teachings tell us with what we have, except for practice. Because the opposite of insatiability is satiability, satisfied. In English, you say somebody rests on their laurels. You know, it's from the old Roman times. You got kind of a prize. There's a crown of laurel leaves. So it's like a prize, podium, prize. And so when we feel, we look around, I'm doing more than anybody else. I've done enough. It's like me. I've given my life to Dharma since the age of 23 until now. I've worked very hard. I could say that's enough. I gave. What do people say? I gave. I've given a lot. And at times risked a lot and taken big gambles. Because parents, for instance, my parents, Katya's parents, they said, well, what you going to do when retirement comes? You've not earned a penny since you were 23. You have no pension, no security. Never mind. So you could say, that's enough. And look around and think, I did pretty good. Well, that's not the Bodhisattva way. If you can do this much, it means with a bit of effort, you can do that much. And if you can do that much with a bit of effort, with a bit more effort, you can do that much. So in a way, I touched on this in the first week and the second time round. It's about being efficient. So intelligent rest is very much part of being efficient. Just pushing yourself to do more and more in terms of activity is not what this is about. It's about knowing your capacity. If I take myself as an example, when I was busy in Samiling for so many decades, I looked like a busy person. People would always apologize about taking my time. They'd always say, Ken, I know you're busy, but can you do this? Can you tell me that? And I would. I'd work from whatever I was doing, from early morning practice, 7:30, 8 o'clock, usually till 11 at night, 7 days a week. So I was busy. But I knew, and Akon Rinpoche knew, and he told me, you're a lazy person. So I didn't look lazy in everybody else's eyes, but I knew I was working under capacity. I was doing very well. I was achieving lots of things. Work with him was beautiful. He kept giving me new projects, and I was his workhorse. I got things done for him, and he had something to show for it. It was wonderful, like that. But I knew that I was underperforming, how can you say, mentally, but also practically as well. But other people wouldn't have said that. So this insatiability means wanting to do more. And of course, Akon Rinpoche, for me, was the example. He always did more with his work in Tibet, his humanitarian work. Always more and more and more. He pushed himself to the very limit. He would sleep in a four-wheel drive vehicle over dirt roads overnight, going from one project to the next, be all day long with sponsors, projects, giving advice, sorting things out, then sometimes back in the car for another night of rough sleep in the car to get to the next place. The people with him would sometimes beg him to stop. They said, we can't take any more. And so he worked to the maximum. Somebody once said, Rinpoche, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you manage those 5-month stretches in Tibet? He turned around, he said, strong coffee. But it was more than that. It was a strong mind. But he did also say strong coffee. And it did keep, he kept himself awake and going, because there were just so many people who needed his help. When he got back to Samiling, sometimes his interviews would go on till 10, 11 at night. So anyway, insatiability is something we can explore. Now, when we conclude, then we've got our same 2 topics that all the paramitas have. How to increase our diligence, how to make it pure. There are last 2 of the 7 key topics in the chapter, Gampopa's chapter on diligence. So how to increase it? Let's take the overview. These 2 together, how to increase it and make it pure together, make the difference between whether it's the Mahayana paramita of diligence or whether it's just diligence. All the things I've been saying about diligence you can apply. They will make good karma. You will get good results in a future life. The good results will last so long, and they'll finish. Hopefully, the good results will be a time when you make more good results, so the whole thing snowballs. But it's on a relative level. It is not the Mahayana paramita of diligence. Paramita, as we saw in our overview of paramitas a few weeks ago, is what in this moment, when you're doing it, takes your mind out of the stream of consciousness. And those moments of paramita, more and more coming together, get us out of samsara definitively. Paramita means the other shore, the far shore. It's what takes us out. So in any moment of diligence, if there is the 3 factors of increase and the 2 factors of purity, then that moment is a moment of transcendence. It's a true moment that will help make your enlightenment, will help shatter, Guru Rinpoche says, shatter the axle of samsara. It's a vivid wartime image, the old-fashioned wars where people had horses and chariots, sometimes chariots with knives on the wheels. So if you smash the axle, the whole thing screeches to a halt. And what was a deadly war machine is useless. It was like a tank that's been blown up. How to break the axle of samsara, which is said what goes round and round. Smash it, the wheels can't turn anymore. And take us into Buddha mind. So the 3 things of increase, we increase the quality through the power of jhana, primordial wisdom, and we train in non-duality, non-triplicity. The increase in volume, quantity. Quantity is through the application of prajna, whereby our mind is full of the Mahayana bodhisattva training that multiplies whatever's being done, that imagines all the Buddhas and bodhisattvas and is Whatever we're doing, if we are diligently building a temple, putting a brick in a wall to build a temple, then we are in our mind through praja building endless temples, retreat centers, libraries, any kind of structure that's needed to help the Dharma, building them from the most beautiful materials in all sorts of worlds and realities, under the water for the nagas, and it just gets endless. As we're laying one brick, our mind is huge and endless and benefiting tens of thousands of beings. So we increase the quantity through praja, and then we increase the duration through dedication that we do when something's finished. Again and again, we dedicate to all beings. We let go any ego involvement. So the 3 ways of increase, and then the 2 ways of purity. Something is pure when we have compassion, when it's done through pure compassion, pure love for everybody, no ego. Combined with the 4 seals of shunyata, voidness, so that our compassion recognizes the emptiness, the voidness of the doing, the doer, not the absence, but all we mean by shunyata, the dreamlike, interdependent, changing nature of what we're doing. The 4 seals of shunyata combined with compassion make the diligence very, very pure. So I think that's it. With 3 sessions is just enough to have this quick look at diligence. And so now we have the rest of our lives to apply these teachings and to explore them further and to inspire ourselves. So let's dedicate, and then we can have a moment of discussion and sharing. May whatever virtue was created by this session contribute to the state of omniscience being attained, through the main enemy, our mind's defilements, being completely defeated. Through that, may each and every sentient being become freed from the ocean of existence, troubled by the waves of rebirth, aging, sickness, and death. May this precious bodhicitta arise in those in whom it has not arisen. May its development know no setbacks, and may it increase ever more and more. Through this virtue, may we quickly achieve Mahamudra and establish every single sentient being in that same accomplishment. Okay, over to you. If anyone has something they'd like to add, and hello to those I didn't say hello to at the beginning.
And I don't have a question today, but I just wanted to say thank you to you, because I've been spending lots of time with your study course, your 3-year study course.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm finding it so beneficial. And because it feels like it's almost like all the teachings that I have received from you over the years and from other teachers too finally have some structure. And it's feeling like all of the jigsaw pieces are coming together to make a full picture. And I've really appreciated that, and I can highly recommend it to anybody else as well. It's so much material that is written down, and I appreciate you're sending these modules out to us, but the first 10 for me, they've been real game changers, so thank you.
So music to my ears. Thank you. Thank you.
Actually, Ken, is Kim here? I would like to just echo that, because I did the Nangi Shedra back in 2009.
Oh, when it first started, yeah.
Set it up, and it's amazing now with these support documents. I've actually been revisiting the modules that I printed off, and I'm amazed how much is in them. I'd forgotten over the years, so it's really wonderful to revisit them. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what else do I need apart from the Nangi Shedra? Because it covers everything. So I echo that. Thank you very much. And it's this course and the courses that you're doing are a wonderful feed in to it, if you know what I mean. It's brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite a story. In 2008 or 2009, I can't remember which one. Then I was traveling and I got to Samiling, and there, who was it? I think Lama Yeshe had asked somebody, maybe I better not say who, to put together some study material, which they've been doing, and with one of his monks. And he said, show it to Ken to make sure it's okay. And and so I read through it, and there wasn't a structure. The structures, and there was only, it was kind of bits and pieces, and some bits already at the time were from the internet. And I thought, no, we can't put this out as Samiling study material, because we had such amazing transmissions, thorough transmissions from Khenpo Sotim, Khenchen Trungpa Rinpoche, and so on. And all of it beautifully structured, everything fits. That's the way they learn, that's the way they teach, that's the way I learned with them. And there was so much missing, and what was there wasn't at all organized. So I had to say, sorry, but so then that caused a bit of an upset in Samueling. And then they said, well, let's have several contributors and we can make sections and people can, so who can we ask? And ask Rob Nairn to do something, Ken to do something, Amazamo to do something. And then the other people sort of, no. So then I thought, okay, then I've got to do it myself. But then there was some reason for urgency for doing it. So I worked out an overall structure, 3 years, first year this, second year that, and then what do we put in there? And I started writing the modules. I thought they'd be smaller than they turned out to be, but each topic, once I started writing, I thought, you can't leave that out, and you've got to put this in. And so the first one ended up 70 pages, I think 75 A4 pages. So I sent, and then I carried on. Some of the others were less. But then the time had come to start, and there are 30 modules in the course. I must have written about 11 of them, and I was busy traveling, teaching. And as time went by, the pressure mounted, and I only had one module ahead to send out next month, and the next couple of weeks to write the next one. But it got written, and it was a good thing. There was that pressure. Somehow it got it done well, because it had to be done well. even though there wasn't so much time. So I'm glad. I'm glad it's been of use. It's gone out now to people in 34 countries, and quite a few thousand people have done it. So I'm very pleased.
Ken, I put the link in the chat for people so they could see if they're interested, but I wonder in the summary of this YouTube, because we're discussing it in the Q&A, whether you could put your link in there, because the overview, it really gives people an idea.
Yeah, I'll put it in when I edit the video.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I also appreciate the modules that you sent out, Ken. Thanks. I feel like I've got this kind of golden treasury because it's sitting there all saved on my computer and it's never going to go away. Well, I don't think so anyway. I think I'll always find it somewhere. And even when you're gone, it'll be there, you know.
That's what I hoped. And also, there's a lot of material in there. So
going back,
I thought people can have it as a resource and they can come back to it in the years ahead and, you know, check things out.
Thanks. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yes, I want to say thank you also. I'm Karma actually, but I'm Jenny here too. I'm actually living in Sweden, so I'm over the ocean from you all. But I'm very grateful that you let me inside this group today. My friend who is in this group, she sent me the teachings, and it's perfect timing in my life. I'm his Holiness Karmapa student. I stayed with him many years in India.
Oh, how wonderful. Yeah. How wonderful, Karma.
Thank you.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi. Thank you for today, for the teachings and thinking about diligence. You know, I have this friend, you know, he's not Buddhist and not in the Dharma, but he is a good friend of mine. But every time we meet, he has some terrible story, you know, about some murder or something, or, you know, atrocities, the war, politics, you know. And it's all this kind of despair, you know, and it kind of shows me, you know, like if we don't have diligence, that's where we go, you know. That's where we go. We just despair at the human when we see the human activity in the world, you know, and viewing it that way, you know. So he's a lovely man, you know, and he was telling us like his son was a bit of a weirdo because he was doing Buddhism. So he's got some kind of connection, you know, because he's got myself, and he appreciates when I kind of say, you know, well, this being cynical, you know, you know, I mean, of humanity, you know, it's not really helping you, you know, you know, and I find that we can go down that road, you know. And so that's where diligence comes in, you know, and it saves us going down that road, you know.
Yeah, it does. And it brings up a lot of things, what you're saying, Charlie, because, you know, of course, I hear the news and people tell me about the news, and I do feel myself, we need to know what goes on to a certain extent. Otherwise, how can you have, that's what compassion is about. How can you love and care for people? Compassion is a response to what they're going through. But the picture of the universe that we get through the Buddha's teachings, and that I'm very, very grateful to Khenpo Sotim Gyatso for teaching to us in the 1970s from the Kala Chakra and other tantras and sutras, reality is just so endless and varied. I mean, and relative. I mean, okay, we might think things are getting bad here, but Buddha describes other states, hell realms, ghost realms, and so on, where this is paradise by comparison. It really is. And then, so there's all of that. And then in the teachings of the 1,002 Buddhas who come, and this is what's called an eon, a kalpa. Very hard to describe a kalpa, but we're like billions and billions of sentient beings who are linked to each other like a family. We're going through a very, very long journey together with each other that will end. So Buddha Shakyamuni, who came, he was the fourth Buddha of the 1,002 to come during this long story of billions of beings. And then he manifests not just in our world, but our world is linked to something like a billion, 10 to the power 9, similar worlds. So our human family. So the picture is very big, and these 10 to the power 9 worlds, a billion worlds, something like planet Earth, something like that, are our possible places of rebirth. So some people, when they study the Buddha's teaching, we've got what I was talking about today, this mentality we grew up, just this life, just this planet. The rest is stars, and not to mention time, space, and all of its complexity. But the Buddha's teaching is parallel worlds. So we are not necessarily, if we're going to be reborn human next time, we're not necessarily going to be reborn in the continuing story here on planet Earth. If you're very brave, if you're a very good bodhisattva and you've already got the skills, you might want to come back and help. But there are other worlds, and they're not all going down the tubes like this one is just now. So then in Guru Rinpoche's teachings about this world at this time, oh gosh, it's so big. Forget that, come back to that in a second. Before that, in the Golden Age Sutra about the 1,002 Buddhas who come, then our Buddha Shakyamuni is number 4. And if you drew a graph of what would be on this quality of life on this axis, and time going by in the eon on this axis, in the kalpa, then you see it comes down, down, down. So Buddha's 1, 2, 3, life quality is getting worse in our little family of worlds. Shakyamuni comes at before the lowest point, not at the lowest point. And then it goes through a terrible time of degeneration. Much like the post-apocalyptic stuff we get these days. Then we go past the worst and up and higher in the graph than Shakyamuni is where Maitreya comes. Then it goes up and it goes down, and you get the 1,002 Buddhas who come. So in one of the sutras, it's like the Buddhas having a chat, and the other Buddhas say to Shakyamuni, what are you doing in such a corrupt age, in such a corrupt place? And you got guts, kind of thing to appear and manifest and teach. And it's said that of the 1,002 Buddhas, Shakyamuni is the only one who teaches Vajrayana, the only one who teaches Tantra, because the powerful degradation of these times needs the powerful methods of Vajrayana to turn it around for those who have the amazing good fortune at this time to connect healthily with healthy Vajrayana. So when that's happened, everything's right. The guru is a true guru, the teachings are authentic lineage, practice is done by right people, then we're very fortunate, because in the other times they won't be needed. It's like strong medicine is only needed when things are really bad. Otherwise, softer medicine can help. So anyway, in the larger picture of the 1002 Buddhas, then Shakyamuni comes at this age of deterioration. But then within that, according to Guru Rinpoche's teachings, we've got the 5 things that get worse and worse. And that seems to be really happening now. So he says that as they get worse and worse, then the average lifespan on this planet will become 10 years of age. There will be terrible poverty in nature, in the crops, in foodstuffs. There will be endless wars and fighting and violence and degradation on many levels. So that's the prediction of how it's going to be. The good news is that there's no point us being there then. We can't do anything. Nobody wants it. Even these days, not that many people want Dharma. No, but there, even if you were a bodhisattva, apart from healing wounds and giving a bit of food, you couldn't do very much. So people now who make a beautiful and meaningful connection with Dharma, then will be reborn in one of these parallel planets where things are better, where the teachings and the circumstances are more positive, and we can work and make connection with each other as Sangha and gradually become the Sangha around the next Buddha, Maitreya. I really hope and I believe that all of us who are connected through these teachings will end up with Buddha Maitreya in the distant future.
That's wonderful. Thanks. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Hi, Ken. Like everyone, I'd like to thank you for the teachings. But I'd also like to say that I really like this, what's the word, arrangement or this group. One thing you mentioned today was this nice quote from Thai Situpa about being undeterred by, I think it was light samsara in monasteries. Just the other day, last week, I was reading your story, wonderful story about Akong Rinpoche's life. And I have to confess, I had a little smile at how magnanimous you were about the changes in Samyeling. And as you know, I also had my own personal issues with changes in Samyeling and also in the Dublin Centre, which I was involved in setting up. This group is not in a Dharma centre, so to speak, or in a monastery or a nunnery, but I think it's a very interesting. I like this group. You know, you get to know people and the sort of questions they ask and where they're coming from. It's a very interesting format, rather than going to. Maybe I'm prejudiced, but rather than going to a Buddhist center where there is also not just light samsara, but heavy samsara.
Yeah, I like it too. I think I think we are wonderful people here. It's nice, and it's. I mean, what we've got, Myron in Hawaii, we've got Maurice in Japan, we've got people all over Europe, and in this cyberspace.
Yeah. Can I say something? In Japan, there's not a lot of Tibetan Buddhism here, or Dharma centers at all. There's a few, but it's mostly just temples, and you're either a Soto Zen or a Shingon-shu or whatever temple that you Buddhist temple you belong to, and nobody really actually practices until they die, and then they get the local temple to do the. Well, that's not true, but it's not. It's very interesting to be able to meet everybody online and have these really profound discussions. And you know, we can't afford to travel everywhere anymore by plane to go to India or Nepal or up to Scotland. And so yeah, I as coming from a country that's supposedly a Buddhist country, an Asian country, it's very nice to connect with Westerners and foreigners and hear the teachings in English and yeah, with different points of views.
Thank you. Okay, well, so
okay, I'm going to say thank you too. Thank you, Ken.
Thanks,
You've been my teacher for 40 years.
Gosh.
You were the first translator, the first books.
Yeah.
And it's like having you right in my living room. So it's good to see you.
It's great to see you too, Myron.
Thank you.
Old friends.
And Khenpo brothers.
Yeah, Khenpo brothers. Used to laugh so much because Khenpo Sultim Jamso, my Dharma name is Sultim Jamso. So I was
really?
Ken Sultim Jamso and he was Khenpo Sultim Jamso. We'd have a lot of laughs about that. Okay, so next week we have the upcoming program. Next week is a one-off on the 22 similes of bodhicitta from Maitreya's text, the Abhisamaya Alamkara. And that's a lovely, sweet, meaningful teaching. And then I think after that, I've got a few sessions of a topic I do every so often, which is dying as best we can, how we can prepare for dying according to the 7-point mind training. So in about a couple of months' time, we'll be back with the paramitas, and then it's meditation paramita. There's a lot in there, so we have quite a few sessions. Of course, we deal with quite a few specific meditations in there. So wishing you all well, and maybe see a lot of you next week. Take good care. Take good care.
So very much.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, Ken. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Try.